recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. And thanks again to both of you. Let me just start with you, Mrs. Hanna, and just have a few questions about different countries. Do you know how many countries President Biden has visited since he assumed office? He's been to 32 countries. And do you know how many countries in Latin America, or I should say in South America, he has visited? Zero. Zero. And do you know how many times Chairman Xi Jinping has visited South America? 8 times. So what message do you think that sends to the region? I understand that you're telling me that you have great plans and wonderful ideas, but perception is reality. So if you don't go visit your neighbors, what does that say?
Thank you for the question, Chairwoman. I can say that the Secretary of State has traveled to the region 11 times in the last 2 years.
Yeah, but that's the Secretary of State. That's not the
Secretary
President.
of State. It is not the President. It is the Secretary of State, and he has deeply engaged in diplomacy in the region. Additionally, President Biden has met with numerous leaders at various events, including UNGA last week, where we are able to conduct important diplomacy.
Well, we're going to talk about how many Latin American presidents the President of the United States has invited to the White House, but I'm going to get to that later. Now, have you, as one of the top officials dealing with Latin America in the State Department, have you advised the Biden administration, hey, you have to go to Latin America?
I can offer that any regional bureau would ask that the President visit their region. Of course, we would love for the President, for the Secretary, for every
And
principal.
why do you think, what makes you believe that he hasn't been able to go? I mean, we're pretty close.
Yeah, I can't speak to the President's travel schedule, but I can say that it's still a top priority.
But have you advised them regularly? Have you advised the White House to take that step, to visit Latin America?
We continually advocate for robust diplomatic engagement with our leadership in Latin America and
You
the
know
White
that
House.
there was a visit to Brazil and Chile for October, but the trip was canceled. Why? Why was it canceled?
Well,
Do you know?
No, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, you know why it was canceled? Because there's no interest. Because I mean, Chile is only 8 hours away and Brazil is 9. But, you know, that doesn't really send a good message. Now, let's go to Honduras. President Xiomara Castro is the wife of Mel Zelaya. Mel Zelaya was a friend of Fidel Castro and told Fidel, and we know this, that capitalism was the most repugnant system he knew and that he had a profound aversion to the United States. President Biden celebrated her election, Xiomara Castro, who is the actual president of Honduras, sending Vice President Harris to her inauguration. Something that this White House denied to President Lasso of Ecuador, President Chavez of Costa Rica, President Peña of Paraguay. Those 3 administrations are conservative. But Mel Zelaya's wife received the honor of having the Vice President of the United States at her inauguration. What do you think what type of message that sends?
I think that we engage with every democratically elected government. Our participation in the inauguration of Honduras demonstrates the incredibly important bilateral relationship that we have with Honduras, addressing a whole range of issues that they continue to work with us on, including migration.
I'm just asking you specifically, the White House sent the Vice President to Honduras, and it did not do that with Lasso in Ecuador, who's a conservative. It's very clear to see the difference in treatment to these 2 countries.
What I can say is just yesterday I participated in a meeting with the foreign minister of Ecuador as we signed a SOFA between the United States and Ecuador. So our robust diplomacy continues with all countries, regardless of travel. I think we demonstrate continued commitment to all of those countries you named.
Did you know that the president of Honduras was going to break relations with Taiwan and recognize communist China?
So I was in Honduras in 2022 raising the issue of the value of a relationship with Taiwan as a democratic partner to the region. You know, countries make their own sovereign decisions about the relationships they had, as Honduras did in this case. But we continue to advocate strongly for Taiwan to maintain international.
But they decided to part ways with Taiwan and embrace China. That has been decided already. And apparently, we did not have any type of influence over her decision. Now, do you know that in Honduras, like you said, is such an important ally, so close to the United States, they have been implementing the Chavista agenda, meaning Venezuela's Chavez agenda, expropriating businesses, defending Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela at the United Nations, and creating something called the colectivos, which are a nefarious word because those are the gangs that are enforcing the socialist government agenda. Are you aware of that?
I can offer that we continue to engage with Honduras at the highest levels about all of the issues that you're raising.
And what do they say? What do they say back to you?
I cannot. I'm not in those conversations personally, but I.
Do you think that you're making any inroads? Because it's very worrisome that Honduras, which is so close, and like you said, it's most of the migrants that are coming to the United States through Central America have to go through Honduras, and Honduras is really not doing anything in order to stop that flow. On the contrary, they are charging those migrants to make it easier, and the government of Honduras, according to our sources in Miami, the district that I represent, where we have hundreds of thousands of Hondurans. Now the government of Honduras is using the desire to come to the United States as a business proposition. Are you aware of that?
I am aware that Honduras continues to partner with us closely to address irregular migration. I know that we remain...
Partner with us. In which way they're partnering with us? If they're charging $25 for every migrant that goes from point A to point B.
Yeah, I can't speak to that particular scheme you're describing, but I can say that we continue to work closely with the government of Honduras as well as the rest of the Central American countries to address migration and to find solutions to try and reduce the flow of irregular migrants. I will also offer that we remain the preferred partner of the Honduran people, and I think
of course,
and I think
the people of Venezuela and the people of Nicaragua and the people of Cuba, of course, the people always side with the Americans. No doubt about it. But I'm talking about the people that make the decisions, the governments.
And we continue to engage with the government at the highest levels. We've raised our concerns about the switch to PRC recognition and the potential for, buyer's regret. We've seen other countries in the region switch recognition from Taiwan to the PRC, and we see how that plays out.
Now I'm going to. I don't want to fatigue you. Let me go to Guatemala, next door neighbor. The Biden administration attacked President Giammattei for being too conservative. How do I know that? Because the president himself told me. He is on his way out. Everything indicates that Mr. Bernardo Arevalo is going to be the next president of Guatemala, and he has expressed interest to increase ties with communist China. Have you had any conversations with the president-elect about engaging with China and leaving behind Taiwan behind?
I have not personally had conversations with President-elect Arevalo, but I know that we are in conversation with the democratically elected president, and that Taiwan remains, promoting Taiwan as a responsible and democratic partner in the region is one of the topics of conversation that we have.
Thank you. I'm going